Alright, in this video we'll talk about Python numbers and essentially two types of Python numbers that are integers and floats. Generally speaking, everything we create in Python is an object and an object has a type. And we have looked at two types. The first one is integers. We have looked at something like print 8, so whole number, that's an integer. And if we are using decimal numbers like 6.5 or more significant digits after the decimal, all those are floats. So there are two types, and the way you can check the type for any variable or any value in Python is that you can use this type function and just say type of 5. So tell me the type of 5. It's telling us class int. Int is for integer, that's a whole number. Let me also show you that negative whole numbers are also integers. So again, you'll see that it's saying class int is for integers. Similarly, you can check type of 5.6, and this is a float. So these are two different number types, and we're going to see how we can use these in calculations. We have looked at it a little bit in the previous video, but now let's look at the operator that we used in the previous video. The first operator that we looked at was the addition operator. So for example, 5 plus 6, this plus is an addition operator. Similarly, this minus sign is a subtraction operator. And then we have the multiplication operator, which is the star. And this is how we multiply two numbers. And then there is the division operator, which is something like the slash, and that's it. So we have looked at these before. In addition to these, there are two more division operators. The first one is known as the integer division. Notice this thing. So if I'm doing print 15 divided by 2, I'm going to get the 7.5. But let's say I'm interested in the quotient only, that's 7, and then I'm interested in the remainder separately. For that, I will use something that's known as integer division. For example, print 15 integer division. So there are two slashes instead of one, and just hit enter. So I'll just get the quotient. Let's say I also want the remainder. So in that case, what I'll do is 15, and then this percentage sign, which is also known as modulus in Python, and hit enter. And this is the remainder that you get when you divide 15 by 2. That's the remainder that you get. Let me show you another quick example. For instance, 10 divided by 4. Sorry, I want the remainder, right? So modulus 4, and you'll get 2. Okay. Now these are different types, numeric types in Python. These are different operators in Python. In addition to that, we are looking at something that's known as type conversion, which means you can convert one type to another. For example, I have this float 10.1 and I want to convert it to an integer type. And the way to do that is that I'm going to write int, which is for integer, and we saw that when we used the type function. And I'll just say 5.4, and this is going to just like return the whole number part of this. For example, 5. And even if I'm using 5.9, right, it will return 5. That is the whole part of that number. Similar to this, I can convert an integer to a float. And what I have to do is simply write float. And then let's say I have an integer, 6. And obviously it is going to convert it to a 6.0. So this is how we can convert from one type to another, and we'll see these conversions more when we talk about strings later on. In addition to this, let's look at expressions. And as you can tell, expressions are nothing but combining these operations, these multiple operations together in a single line or a single expression, just like we do in math. Let me write that here in the editor. So let's say I'm interested in calculating something like print the radius of a circle. So the radius of a circle is 3.14. I'm just like assuming that's the value of pi, and then multiplied by r, which is the radius. Let's say the radius is 5, and then I have to square it, right? And so this is an additional exponent operator that if you use 2 stars instead of 1, that's 5 squared. Let me show you first, and then we can look at that. For example, 5 and then 2 stars, and hit enter. So you'll get 25, or just like we've been doing, 6 and then 2 stars. So that's like 2 raised to the, and let's say this is 6 cube, and that's 216. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. So this is an expression because I'm using more than like one operator in a single line. And if I just like run it, I'll get this output. That's the radius of that circle. All right. So when we're using like multiple operators, for instance, let's say I'm doing something like print 3 minus 4 times 2 divided by 5, right? So it's a bigger expression. I get some value. And the way this value is computed is known as the order of operation. And the order of operation that's followed in Python is, the way I like to remember it is PEMDAS. So parentheses first, then exponent, and then the negative. If there is a negative sign with the exponent, then that comes in. And then the multiplication, division, addition, subtraction. Now also, like a word of caution when we're using multiplication and division in an expression, and the way it's evaluated is from left to right. So if in the left, like multiplication and division have an equal, I would say, a precedence, they have the equal value, and similar to that, addition and subtraction have an equal value, and it's evaluated from left to right, in the sense that, let's say I have like this, and then I can have somewhere this and then this. All these are multiplication and division operators together. Okay, and so like it depends on how they appear in the expression, and then they will be whenever like your expression has a multiplication and a division, it will be evaluated from left to right, meaning whichever comes first will be evaluated. And of course, with parentheses, you can force something. For example, let's look at this expression only, right? So it was 3 minus 4 times 2 divided by 5. Or like, let me make it even like simpler so that we can understand what's going on. So 3 minus 4 times 2, according to PEMDAS, it should have like the multiplication first and then the subtraction should happen. But in PEMDAS, we have this parentheses first. So let me force this kind of a computation where I'll say subtract first and then multiply. So I can do that, right? So this is something to remember, that with the help of this PEMDAS, we can force and we can manipulate our expressions. And one last thing, when we are using exponents, let's say like something like this, the evaluation happens from right to left, which means first 3 squared will be computed, which is 9, and then this will be 2 to the 9. And we can force the order of operation by introducing a parenthesis, so that the value within the parentheses is computed first, something like this, and then that is the outer one is computed. So that's all in this video. See you in the next video. Okay.